For Lord Cars.
Hear ye. Man of the people.
You know it's Cars Keys. Let's get it started up. Give me the car keys. Lakeshore Drive. Blog boys drive away with our takes like car thieves. Break down, we study tape and thrive.
Analytical preparation, that's what cars is given. Cars don't discriminate, teaching the men and women. Each and every week, there's nerd to get your focus. Never manipulating stats, lore, cars and hocus pocus. Cars keys, they're never lost. Checking source, never gonna find a better scouting report. Cars going live with the smartest man, my bestie. Deciphering holes on the defense like Getsy. New show, uniforms, orange with the dark sea. Tape never lies, patrons, this is Cars
You know
Keys.
it's Cars Keys. Let's get it started up. Give me the car keys. Lakeshore Drive. Blog boys drive away with our takes like car thieves. Break down, we study tape and thrive. We gotta break down tape like detectives. No hot takes, just real football perspectives. The Bears nerd dropping science on his terms. TTNL giving Bears press like a perm. Other networks is off with the heads. Stats plus film equals football cred. Analysis like data Ted tries to shred. McCaskey's letting me cake, we keep the 100 crew fed. Cars keys, let's get it started up. Give me the car keys. Lakeshore Drive. Blog boys drive away with our takes like car thieves. Break down, we study tape and thrive. Lord Hines in his car, fill up a goblet. Lord Hines in his car, fill up a goblet.
It's Cars Keys, Season 3, Episode 40. Believe it or not, we have a little bit of a change up tonight. No cars tonight. We're running the Waldron playbook. So we're not going to bring our best to the table. We're going to run with some backups tonight. And who's it going to be? We play the best cars. We don't fuck around here, man.
I thought I got fired there for a second, and it was going to be the most humiliating thing in the world, right? Like you're just gonna be like, oh god.
It's always an uncomfortable moment when you're in the shower pre-show and you have a little idea, like that. So yeah, I had to upload the dance party and shove you aside for a little bit, and
thank you. That's how you keep my ego in check. It works out very well.
No Travis Homer tonight. We're bringing out the big guns. That's why I got my guy here. But man, what a fucking man. The Chicago Bears keeping us on our tippy toes, on the edge of our seats, always.
You take the positive that they found a way to win. You take a lot of positives out of the Daryl Taylor talk about, like, oh my God, look how resilient this team is. They kept fighting. And you kind of look at offensively, and there's enough things that I think what ended up happening for me, Shannon, I don't know how you feel, is I felt like a lot of the time I focus on the big bad plays, and not that consistently, more often than not, there were plays to be made. But because we didn't make them, it's a lot easier to stick out to the stuff that
they're
failed.
amplified. Yeah, I mean, running it back, I've watched it 3 times now. Actually 4. I mean, I watched the
depressing
broadcast replay, and then 3 separate times on the All-22, just trying to, and there was plays there to be made, and you have to hold Caleb Williams accountable. You and I were chatting a little bit pre-show, and what I like to hear Caleb, saying things like, yeah, I was actually, too fast in my drop back, and it translates. Even, I know we're going to get into the Waldron stuff, but even what he said, clean eyes, clean feet. And that's where it starts. And Cars, you look at the 3rd and 3 to Keenan Allen down the left sideline. 99 times out of 100, that's going to be a completion, and it's going to be close if he gets in for 6. But either way, it's that right there as the first big play of his career is a momentum boost, and that shit can dictate the entire outcome of a game. It really can. It can give your offense all of that momentum. The crowd's going crazy. Everything can change. The drop pass by Keenan. All of that. It's those plays I don't think are going to be non receptions or incompletions next time.
Yeah, I think one of those takes the pressure off. Completing that first touchdown, that first big play, your quarterback can settle in, and you see like there's a couple plays he missed to Rome, for instance, where he was just a hair off because his whole body was off, and those things you don't expect to see. And I think some of that was him. I think we've often talked about how the tackles held up really well. The edge rushers from Tennessee didn't really impact the game, but it's Sweat and Simmons did, and nothing gets in a quarterback's head more than interior pass rush. That's why you look at why Aaron Donald was so valuable and so much more important than a defensive end.
Yep.
It's because he's half a step away from the quarterback at snap.
And they're harder to find.
It's incredibly hard to find.
Yep.
And so, we're not going to face an interior defensive line like that for quite some time. We're not going to face a lot of those players. Now, the opposite here in Houston is they've got 2 really good edge rushers versus the interior, and our former Bear Mario Edwards is probably the best interior defensive lineman that they have. But this is a defense that they should be able to do some things against and kind of set some tone there. And if they, with a better interior block, we'll see a more accurate representation of what Caleb is going to be.
Yeah, and I know you got your slides, and I know it, at this point. So here we are on Thursday, and we've been over it and over it and over it. You and I have had private conversations, and the famous secret text thread has been over it a million times. But it's when you hear coaches and players and analysts and reporters talk about every week how hard it is to win just one game in the NFL.
Mm-hmm.
And you're limiting your chances on it because of your personnel usage. I invited anybody last night to come onto the show live. I would have sent them a link and defend the personnel usage. It happens so often here in Chicago where it's just like, again, I brought it up. My son's 13. And he's like, Dad, I don't understand why is DJ on the sideline on 3rd down? Why is Keenan on the sideline on 3rd down? How come we paid DeAndre Swift and Travis Homer is out there? And I understand you have to bring guys in, give guys breathers, they get nicked up. But man, Cars, the ultimate mic drop on all of this is 10 snaps. 10. You're a numbers guy. You're an analytics guy. 10 snaps for DJ, Keenan, Rome, Caleb, and DeAndre Swift together for the entire game. It's indefensible.
Especially when you're struggling.
They should have that in the second offensive series. At the very latest, the third, they should have 10 snaps together.
Well, and I think what got really frustrating to me is early you saw some success with kind of those off the tackle or just inside of the tackle runs, and those completely disappeared. And, we see a lot of Gerald Everett. Gerald Everett's best season is only better than Cole Kmet's first season.
Yeah, exactly.
Like it doesn't make sense. And it just felt there was no method to the madness in the play calling.
Nope.
You know, one of the things that when you talk about Kyle Shanahan, who's so good, is he sets things up, and the run game and the pass game have to be married. And he'll call a couple of plays that look the same and alter. If we want to use an example, right? Look at what Atlanta did this week, where every shotgun snap was a pass, every pistol snap was a run. We weren't that level of predictable,
right?
But that doesn't mean that it's good. And so this week really has to be. I understand we want to be a passing offense. We have the shiny new toy. We want to show it off. But the easiest way to have made Caleb have more steady feet is more DeAndre Swift, more outside run. Get you into second and short, third and short.
But that and see, but so just, and I'm not trying to step on your toes, but
no,
we had so many third and manageables throughout the game.
All pass plays.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. And
they were all deep. I don't mind necessarily that they were all pass plays, but they were all where the primary route looked to be 15, 20 yards down. You absolutely have to take one of those in a game. And I can understand early, right? Early. Let's try to take the top off of this thing and let's go.
Yeah.
Sure. But when your offense is struggling, you have to do things to get the ball moving again. You have to go to what works. And what doesn't work is the fact that you've got two running backs who are pretty good at running the ball, and your number one guy gets 10 carries. Khalil Herbert gets 2 carries and is only out there for 6 times. That Travis Homer had just as many carries as Khalil Herbert is illogical to me. So does Valus Jones.
Right, and I brought this up last night, and I'll repeat it if nobody heard it. Travis Homer as a Chicago Bear last year had 6 snaps on offense for the entire season. 6.
And he played 11.
He had 11 Sunday.
We made a lot about Cole Kmet, as we should. Cole Kmet is whether you want to hear it or not, he's a top 10 tight end in this league. If you look around, it's Kelsey, it's Kittle, it's Laporta now. I think Hawkinson has to be in there. Dalton Kincaid gets a lot of attention, but he hasn't put up the numbers yet to back it up.
When Goddard is healthy, I think you got to put him up there.
Trey McBride has to be in that conversation. And then you start to get to Cole. I'll take Cole over David Njoku. Njoku 100%. Flashes, but isn't as consistent. And he's your all-around guy. He's a much better edge defender and blocker than we give him credit for. And you limit your team just by not having him out there. And my concern here is that there was a lot trying to be made to Travis Homer. There was a lot that was tried to be done to Gerald Everett, who are old names that he knows.
Yeah.
That shouldn't have been the case. Now, it's week 1. There's not a whole lot of time in camp that these things get ferreted out. I understand that, and we're going to talk a little bit about what's going on here in a bit.
Did you just say ferreted?
Yes.
That's we don't talk about ferrets on this network, Cars.
Oh, sorry. That will all get figured out. But I think there's still enough there that you have hope. This is definitely not like San Francisco in the first game where you're like, we were, to me, the better team and we flashed more. It just wasn't there.
Right.
But I think you just start to see that momentum build and build and build.
Yeah, and the momentum's a big part of it. Like I said, they hit on a couple of those plays. I think things change, and I did say this last night too. As pissed off at Waldron as I am, you have to give him. Unfortunately, you got to give him a little bit of rope to see what he's going to do. Now there is a history there. We all know the Jackson Smith and Jigba comment when he was on with CHGO. I believe it was at the Super Bowl when they asked him about, the day that Waldron was hired in Chicago. And he's like, he was kind of caught in the middle, didn't know what he said. He's like, well, have fun, and you hear that initially and you're like, oh, that's just, personal, blah, blah, blah. And here we are, game one. And just like, I go back to the Cole Kmet, the 85, his show that he's doing. And he's the ultimate professional, the ultimate team player. But you could see the anxiety and you could see it on his face, how pissed he was.
He answered it very politically.
Yep.
And I think that's pretty telling. And I think, watching that Waldron press conference today,
yep,
conversations have been had about the personnel usage, depending on who is responsible for it or what. And I think, Flus was probably so focused on week one on making sure his defense was taking over that he kind of went more hands off than he should have on the offense.
Yeah. But
now there's that big change. Now, the one thing I do want to say is, look, it's kind of like if you have an average quarterback, you can win more often than you don't. If you have an average play caller on the offensive side of the ball, you can win quite a lot. Now, if you want to talk about who are the best offensive play callers, it's McVay, it's Shanahan, it's Andy Reid, it's McDaniel down in Miami. And then, you've got Ben Johnson in Detroit, and you've got so far what Slowick has shown in Houston. And I really like Stefanski in Cleveland, right? Like those are to me, and O'Connell in Minnesota. I think those are like that top tier guys who have really figured out. They know how to marry that run game to pass game. But between them, how many Super Bowls they have, right? McVay's got a win. Reed's got a couple. None of the rest do. So you could still win with him even if he's average, and his problems on third down and personnel and things are very, very valid concerns. Personnel usage, all of those things. But when you go back to it, JSN still had only 2 catches last week and did not make much of an impact. It was not on the field a whole lot for Seattle.
Right. But at the same time, I don't even put in, we've talked about this, Carson. I think you were on kind of the same wavelength that I know Phil was. We were never big JSN fans here at the network in the first place, but it's just, if you're taking DK and Tyler Lockett off the field on third down, you know what I mean? That's the problem. And his answers today, you can kind of tell that, I'm sure things had to have been, there's no way that people are happy. They can't be.
The shine is off a little bit on Waldron, as it should. I think the shine is on Flus and Washington, right? And what they did. They earned some praise.
On defense, defense. And you and I talked a little bit pre-show with that. Flus knows the game plan. Flus knows the personnel that they're going to use. And end of the day, you're the fucking head. You're the head coach.
I don't think he was involved in as much as he should have been in week one, just because, again, he's taken the play caller thing back over after the last week of preseason. I think he went 2 hands off now with these conversations of what happened. If it happens again, I'm with you 100%. Like, there's blame to go on Flus from week one. I'm not trying to excuse it. But if it happens again in week 2, it is a 50-50 issue between Waldron and Flus. And if it happens in week 3, kind of becomes that thing where that percentage for Flus increases and he's got to do something and got to say something.
And I think that another thing that's critical, and it's just not time yet because we're through one game, but at some point, the CEO here is number 18, is Caleb Williams.
Oh, yeah.
He's probably going to keep his mouth shut right now, especially after having a tough game. But there's going to be a point where if this stuff is going on, the dude at the epicenter of this franchise is going to speak.
Oh,
and he's going to be heard no
he's going to be
matter
the
if
agent of
Waldron likes.
change.
Yes, exactly.
And this is what I want to answer.
Oh no.
No.
Would've been worse.
Kingsbury's game plan was awful last week. So many designed runs and other things. Kingsbury is one of the lowest users of motion
Yep.
in pre-snap motion in the NFL. It's something that's really different and problematic. I think it's just Cliff has got a name. He's got some marquee stuff with what he did in college, and he gets a lot because of what Patrick Mahomes has become. But he has been a below average to average play caller in his NFL time. That I don't know how many people watched that Houston game, but if they call that same game plan again and again for Daniels, he is not going to survive.
No, I agree, man.
His helmet got taken off. It felt like 12 times in that game.
Yeah, and he's not, and he's aggressive anyway. He's not a guy like you. Every time, I shouldn't say every time, but whenever Caleb bails, and I was saying it with Justin too, when he was our quarterback, is just get down, don't take the unnecessary hits, and he does in Washington, and he especially did at LSU. And he's not a big guy in the first place. He's very, very slender, and like I said, he's not going to last 4 games like that. No way.
Well, you look at what happened in our game and the hits that Will Levis took. Right, he took that one.
Yeah,
like a couple of just brutal shots because you lower a shoulder. You can't be that proud that that's the way that you're playing, right? It just doesn't work unless you're built like a fucking stone wall, like Josh Allen, right? Or Cam Newton. But you also saw what happened to Cam Newton after taking all of those hits consistently. It eliminates your ability as a passer. It ruins your ability as you go on. And it's just, I don't know. I think sometimes we get caught up in names, right?
Sure.
Like, I think that's really the way that it is. And Cliff's a name, but it's kind of like driving a BMW or a Land Rover. It's a great name, but holy shit, is the maintenance expensive on those things, and you're screwed right away.
Yeah, and let's be honest, I think 80%, 85% of the people that wanted Cliff Kingsbury was for one reason only, because of his 1 year at USC with Caleb Williams,
which supposedly was Caleb's worst year at that, right? I just don't get it. Like he did. And then, so just to answer this real quick.
Yeah.
So if you heard today in the press conference, Waldron said clean feet, and that means there is a tempo in which you want to take your drop. You don't want, we always said with Justin, he took too long to get to his spot, which means by the time he gets to the point where he's supposed to throw, those windows are closed. Those windows, it took too long to develop. And so by the time that the wide receivers were open, he was not ready to throw. The issue with Caleb this time was he was getting to the top of his drop too quickly
and not cleanly.
And his footwork then to deliver the ball was all jumbled. So he wasn't sitting there ready. He got to the top quick. So it's kind of, I don't know how many of you have played basketball before, but it's kind of like one of those situations where you see a lane and you get so excited that you see the lane and you start that you double dribble or you travel or you're missing things that are happening. There's a window, but you want to get to the top of that drop at the proper time. If you're too late, it's a problem. If you're too soon, it's a problem. It gives defenders a reference point to come at you and hit you. And so that's what was really happening. And so it then impacted his foot. Like you saw, there were 2 throws to Rome over the middle, where he was behind, and that was because his footwork, he was there too quick and his footwork was just too sloppy.
Yeah, and that is very, very fixable.
Oh, it's I don't care if you call it nerves, juice, excitement, whatever it is. It's one of those. It doesn't matter what it is. Once we get kind of a playoff where he gets that big play, everything's going to settle.
Yep.
Once he gets that first touchdown, everything's going to settle. If Keenan Allen caught that touchdown, I think you see not even the deep hit. He just hit a little small touchdown. That is the game.
Yeah, the momentum boost right before halftime would have been massive. I mean, they still got 3, but again, Keenan's going to catch that. And listen, people can overrate this and say that it doesn't matter. The pass in the end zone to Keenan Allen cars is exactly the type of thing that we have struggled with at the quarterback position.
Out routes like that? Absolutely. The timing of that out route.
Yeah.
Because Justin and Mitch would wait
and then sail
long.
it. Yeah.
Or they would allow the defender to undercut it and pick it off, right? Like it was one or the other. And so you take the positives of timing. The NFL is really tough. When you look at how bad offenses were in general, like what teams really stood out to you? New Orleans, and that's only because they're playing against Carolina and Minnesota, but that's because this vaunted Giants defense saw their quarterback suck again. Every other game was really pretty tight. Like there weren't anybody that was blowing up. The Texans and Colts game wasn't really like the offenses were on fire. The defenses just missed plays left and right. Jaguars in Miami was a 20-17 game. Week 1 is really week 4 of preseason. As much as everybody hates to say it, it's truly what it is. And now you're going to see more of what this team looks like this week.
And here this is the pass right here to Keenan and in the end zone. And like I said, they're not going to miss this. Oh, my bad. I guess I hit the wrong one. They did miss that one. I picked the wrong play. Sorry about that. Let me grab it and you can talk, Cars.
No. So, I mean, let me jump into some of the stuff that we want to talk to and just talk about a few different little highlights of things that we noticed or I noticed during the week. Again, to me, the biggest problem offensively, and they identified one of them, is that they pulled Nate Davis midway through because his effort just wasn't there. But for all this talk about extending Tevin Jenkins and how important he is, he was trash this last week. It was an embarrassment. And so it's really hard for offensive coordinators to figure out play calling when the interior offensive line is terrible. It also seemed like they were trying to ask Caleb to not do too much early to try to keep things simple. But again, you abandon the stretch run toss game. We did too many screens, I felt like, on third down. It just kind of seemed like a mess overall. Caleb was juiced, but we did see him climb the pocket a few times in a game, right? So pressure was there, but he was able, when he could, to step up. That was big. The best drive for Tennessee, where we saw them kind of run the ball, that was running at Booker. They identified where 94 was, and they ran at him, expecting him to over pursue in hopes of sacks, and they took advantage of that. That's why I think you didn't see the snaps that were there for him the rest of the game. He outplayed himself out of that by not maintaining his run gap requirements. I did find it interesting to say that Billings had snaps at defensive end. There was one of the first third downs, he was at defensive end, and Walker was actually in at defensive tackle with Gervon Dexter. So they did a lot of cool movement there.
Yeah, Gervon was out there too.
Yes, he was.
Yep.
But I would never have expected Billings.
And Cars, I don't know how much you focused in on it. Watch that rep with Gervon at end.
He was good.
Oh yeah, he was. Yeah,
he was good. And last, That play that Jalen nearly picked off by the 1 yard line to Calvin Ridley.
Yep.
That probably would have been a touchdown had Darrell Taylor not made contact with him as he threw. He was a force. We saw everything we had talked about and you had talked about. You predicted 2 sacks for the man and he came through. But his motor, his energy was incredible. Look, the greatest thing that happened out of that game is when he forced that fumble and just walked off like nothing happened.
Yep.
The calmest, just most killer moment.
He needed to. If you look back at some of his Seattle highlights, I don't know if you ever saw the Jared Goff one when.
Oh yeah, when he tackled him after he'd already gotten rid of the
about
ball.
a full 3 seconds after, but yeah, I pulled up the right play. They were back-to-back plays, and of course, I chose the wrong one. But yeah,
before you do this for a second, when we get upset about empty sets, I want you to look and see here down at the bottom. That is Swift.
Mm-hmm.
So what you do take confidence in here is he is an identifier of whether it's zone or man. And so Caleb will have the ability, if he wants to call him back towards him. So even though the set is empty, it does have an option depending on the look for where Swift is going to be. So Caleb is getting some confidence within the offensive coordinators that they're allowing. Waldron is saying, you can make the play, you can make the call. You could see down here, I think this is actually a safety on him. I can't remember fully. But when you go 5 wide, it's technically actually 3 wideouts, Everett and Swift here at the bottom.
And there it is, and that'll clear off. But yeah, this is just a beautiful pass, and that's
the timing is right where it needs to be.
Yep. And he's ready to throw before Keenan's even breaking on that. And just something very simple.
And that was calm feet.
Yep.
Right? When you look at that play, that was calm feet. So it's there again, early season, week 4 of preseason. Concerns absolutely. And we're going to start something here that we're going to call real quick. We are officially on Waldron watch. And this is something that we'll be kind of keeping an eye on here. But it's a lot of different things. Cole Kmet needs to be on the field. If you remember during the first Cars Keys, I talked about how in preseason it was crazy that you saw Gerald Everett out so much and how he's going to be a focal part and that you didn't see a whole lot of Cole. I thought they were saving him. It did not look that way. And so, again, Cole Kmet's worst season, his rookie year, is the only season that Gerald Everett has ever had. That is the only season that Gerald Everett's beats on yards, catches, anything. It's just that can't continue.
No, it can't. And you're limiting, like I said, Cole can make plays downfield and he can also block. So it's not telling the defense. I mean, it's making things actually harder on them. And it's
like Rome is a fantastic run blocker and pass catcher. Keenan Allen is a pretty good run blocker. DJ Moore is. Everett is a fine pass catcher, but he doesn't give you a ton in the blocking game. So I just don't understand that as a play. It just doesn't make any sense.
And you're rewarding a guy that was giving 40% effort in preseason.
Who can't stay healthy.
Yeah.
And on top of it, absolutely. Absolutely. The game plan needs to diversify. There were a lot of these things, there were intermediate and deep levels, but there weren't tiers to these plays. There weren't short and intermediate, right? 3rd and 3. Absolutely. You want to have a pass that can potentially go deep and take the top off. You want to set something else up in between that will draw that defender off. But you have to diversify. Right now, to me, your identity needs to be the stretch run game. That is inside the guard and tackle, right? So left side in between Jenkins and Braxton, or right side in between either Bates or Davis or whoever there and right, or outside Jones and right. That's right now where your best plays are. And so if you have to call passing games to do that, that's fine. And there should be no shame in that. You've got two really good running backs at stretch and toss plays. You add in Velus Jones to that portion. That right now should be your identity until you can get the pass game and the pieces all set up. And that's why the run game needs to be more consistently. They had early down success and then completely went away. Travis Homer, fine. He's going to get snaps, but at no point, and I understand that on third down, you trust him as a blocker a lot more than Khalil Herbert. I think that's part of why we all thought that Herbert had a chance at being traded this offseason, right? Because they just don't trust him as a run blocker. But you got to find other ways to get the ball into Khalil Herbert's. He's a explosive play guy. And for a team that needs 15, 20-yard plus chunk plays, to not find a way to get him more touches and on the field more is really embarrassing. So Waldron watch will continue. I expect to see it improved this week, but yeah, it did not bode well.
No, not at all. And it's just, I think we all get scarred because we've been down the same fucking road
Hope
over
is a
and
killer.
over and over again. Yeah, it is. It really is. And I know I was guilty at one point of saying the same thing about Justin early on. And this is where we've been having back and forth with people in the comments, especially on YouTube, is and I mean, we've had some patrons leave saying that Phil and I and TTNL as a whole weren't fair to Justin, and we were 100% pro Justin Fields even after his first start in Cleveland, where he got sacked 9 times. We weren't calling for his head.
No.
You know, we were holding the coaches accountable. And I know back then I said, you know, Justin Fields, I'm more worried about the play caller, more worried about the head coach, more worried about the offensive line. But then when you get going along and you dive into it more and you get a baseline with Justin Fields, and then you start to see things over and over and over again. And Cars, you saw the next gen pass chart, and I know that they brought it up and we just respect Jesse Bates. Get the fuck out of here. Jesse Bates is a good player. He's not taking away the middle of the fucking field, and
he's
not even
taking it by
it.
the linebackers. He's
Right.
not taking it 10
Right.
yards and in. But that's how you protect a guy, because you don't
Right.
have any other quarterback right now because Russell Wilson is injured. No, you're absolutely right. Like there's a point right now where it's week 1 for a rookie, and so you know you're going to take the lumps.
Yep.
It's different than, again, you're, Daniel Jones in year 6, you're Justin Fields in year 4, and the things that you're doing are still the same. As long as Caleb evolves and continues to develop and does different things, whatever that may be, that's all that matters at this point. He's not a finished product. He's so many of these red flags, Shane, and I'm not saying he's Patrick Mahomes, but these were the same complaints from Texas Tech. Yep. Can't play within structure, as long as it's this play. And you know what? For every Patrick Mahomes, there's a Zach Wilson who's the same thing. But if not all talent is the same, and you've just got to see that ferret out. I have less qualms about him as a passer than I do with any other quarterback that has been here.
Totally agree. And the thing about it is, Cars, even I think it's critical that we get this part out there too. When Waldron, and we saw it on tape too, talking about the clean eyes, clean feet. That was not every single down. No. There was plenty of them when his eyes were clean and he was looking downfield, and you could see times, Cars, when he was moving around, he was trying to find a way to get back into the pocket on things. And again,
he's a true thrower. Remember when Jaden Daniels came out?
Yeah.
It was all 4 months ago. But the stat was like how many times after he had moved out of the pocket had he looked to throw, and it was some absurdly low number, like 5 times. He had gotten out and
on the entire season.
Yeah. And you see Caleb and how he looks to move, right? And those are and he looks to move to a place where he can get open to make those throws. When there wasn't interior pressure, he stayed calmly in the line, in the pocket. He was okay there with guys around his feet.
Yep.
The play that he missed deep to Keenan, there was a guy. Part of the problem was he was so rushed, he didn't take his drop fast or back deep enough. If he did, he would have been fine. That play probably gets completed, but there was a defender right where he was stepping in, so he couldn't do the full thing, and he launched it too high. All of these things, again, are flexible, and once that first big one hits, it's kind of, that's the moment that everything changes. And that was very similar, to CJ last year. No touchdowns his first game. He looked much better. I don't want to take that away, but
and there was still bumps in the road after that. They lost.
Oh yeah.
He did not play well against Carolina, CJ, last year. And I just wanted to give our guy some credit here, Ryan Cox, because it wasn't just, one of the,
good point.
It was the long run to Pollard, 26 yards. And here's the all 22, the end zone view of it. And you can see
91 is Williams.
Yeah. So you have
93
Montez
is Cowart.
Right.
And 94 is Booker.
So there's your quote unquote franchise player, number 98, at the end position, and just watch where the run goes. And I mean, this is NFL fundamental football at its best. They're going to go away from Montez Sweat, and you see the result of this play. But yeah, so there's Ryan hit it on the head right there, man. And what happens? Touchdown.
And you know what? Those things are going to happen early. And just so everybody knows, if Montez Sweat was on the right-hand side, you would have seen Will Levis motion and move the running back over to the other. That was specifically for that play.
Yeah, that's situational football that we talk about right
Absolutely.
there. That is the ultimate key. Oh, Sweat, yeah. Look at the personnel that's out there. Boom.
Let's
go.
Yeah. The other thing we want to talk about real quick is just some interesting little stats here. Because it speaks to my earlier point about how some bad plays may change your mind, right? And so the week one, Bears had the 18th highest rated pass block win rate. So just so folks know, ESPN came up with a stat a while ago. Winning a pass block means that you have held and engaged and stopped your opposing player from getting to the quarterback for 2.5 seconds or longer. And so if you look at that, that's 1% less than the Chiefs and the Browns, but we were higher than the Packers and the Vikings. And we were about 5% less than the Lions. Now, we always know how much of a better offensive line the Lions have. So for us to do that early was encouraging. But I think that's really interesting to see.
Yeah. Oh, go ahead.
Sorry. The Bears saw the 13th highest blitz rate. So they were blitzed at 24% of the snaps. Last week, Houston only blitzed 8%. Now, sometimes you look at this and go, man, they're going to face a rookie quarterback. They'll blitz more. But that was Anthony Richardson, who is still basically a rookie because he did not play more than a handful of games last year.
You think it was
and
4, right?
Yeah, 4 games. I think you're right. 4, maybe. Was it the 5th that he got injured? Or
I think so, yeah.
And so, they're going to rely on coverage and things to happen. So that's going to be a big matchup. So Bears had the 9th lowest percentage rate and had the 7th highest time to sack, which is like over 4 seconds on the sack. So when you look at that again, highlight plays, the deep 19-yard loss on a sack, that's all going to stand out. But overall, it just wasn't there. And I think last but not least, for a team that barely ran the ball, best block rate, 13th best block rate, and they were averaging 1.8 yards before contact on these run plays. Just so everybody knows, last week, Houston was giving up 2 yards before running into a tackler, before contact against Indianapolis, and they did not run the ball very well there. So there's Look, the line there, it wasn't as bad as I think the standout plays made it look like. And if this is a build-up point, you kind of take that early. We'll see again more of who this is, but I think it gives you hope in the future, because if this was last year or the year before, those numbers look so much worse. So much worse.
Totally agree, man. It's hard to do. It's hard to stomach. And I know Phil had his breakdown, and we've talked about it here. There's an absolute pathway to the Bears having everybody beyond Darnell Wright on the offensive line be swapped out. I mean, there is a pathway to that.
Yeah.
And we know that there's tons of work there to be done. And unfortunately, and I know people are, you make trades. It's very, very rare. Who is the last?
You don't see it at the offensive line.
Line. It's just because there's a lack of offensive linemen in the NFL as is. So it's, Ryan Cox, brought it up. You have to see how things unfold in free agency with Trey Smith in Kansas City, and how the financials go there, because that's things like that are where you're gonna, if for whatever reason he hit the open market, because they're a team that's paid so many guys, you're gonna have to let.
They chose Creed Humphrey most likely over
him. But that is the move right there. Let's just say that he hit the market cars. That's the fucking Brinks truck. That's why you have a quarterback on a rookie contract, and you give him an exorbitant amount of money to solidify the spot and bring him here.
And
that's the moves that you have to make.
You have to hope. The biggest concern I have, outside of Nate Davis, and clearly mentally, if he wants to play this game at a high level, or is that competitive fire in him not there?
Right.
The biggest concern for me is, if you had told me the line had struggled, and I would have expected it to be Braxton Jones or the others, but for it to have been Tevin Jenkins on a contract year, where a team has told him that they won't talk to him until the bye week about that. So you have 6 games in which you're going to put tape out there to make sense to the Bears. Hey, you saw what Lindstrom signed for. You saw what those guys signed for in Carolina. I want that level of pay. For him to throw up that sort of stinker, he was the one guy that we've all been tough. Like, he's a mauler, right? He's going to fight. If Jeffrey Simmons and Sweat are he's the guy to compete, and he was bad. And so now this guy that we're going to sign to a 5-year, $100 million contract.
Yeah, there's no fucking way. And listen, I love Tevin Jenkins. I love the attitude that he plays with, but there's not enough there for him that you can make a commitment like that. It's just a stone cold fucking fact.
So what we're after 3 years, right, in which he could have played a total of 51 games. After 3 years, he played 31, right? So his career high is 13. So, Phil hates the line, and I know we've got the clip of him going, the best ability is availability. It's extremely true for someone that you pay for $20 million. But availability also just means week in, week out consistency. Can I rely on you to dominate? We joked a lot about Washington resigning Cosme to that deal, and you're just like, what? I wouldn't pay that guy that amount of money,
right? At
all. But the guy's there. He shows up. He performs at least at a decent level, and every week what you're going to get from him.
Look at our defensive tackle that went to the Cardinals. I know we were talking offensive lineman, but it's a classic. Would I have ever thought that he was going to cash in? I don't think he expected to cash in like that in free agency. Why am I blanking on his name?
Oh,
Came from the Colts. Somebody in the chat will have it. I'm too old to remember all these names.
wait, the guy who he's in the Cardinals?
Yeah, the Cardinals signed him in free agency from us, the defensive tackle that we had last year.
Oh,
Justin Jones. Yeah,
yeah, there you go.
Got it. Yeah. But he got fucking. But that's the thing. Look, Robert Hunt from Miami to Carolina, both those guards in Carolina.
Which I think is part of the reason, by the way, that Bryce is struggling, because those guards are tall guys.
Sure.
And he can't see over them. No, you're absolutely right. Like it's very hard. And I think, again, you take a step back and you go, if Tevin Jenkins isn't on this football team, Ryan Pace was the worst ever.
Right.
Because you're going to be left with Jalen is fantastic. Cole is really good. That's it. That's
Right.
it.
Muck, you're right. Yeah, he actually had a deal with the Colts that he pulled out of because Ryan Poles paid him more money.
That's right.
Yeah, because that was the whole first signing fiasco, and then we had to pivot to Justin Jones. But where it's critical.
Just for a second, I just want to show this for a second. The good news is you can turn that around on the interior pretty quickly.
Yep.
Because this is no longer you need a Larry Allen type or someone that gifted. But if you look at Trey Smith was a later round pick.
Well, he wouldn't have dropped, but he had the blood clots. That's why he dropped. Yeah.
Creed Humphrey was a second round pick. Cam Jurgens in Philadelphia was a second round pick. Yep. And as it sits right now, we're going to have 33 or 34, depending on who's going to suck more, Carolina or the Giants. Like rebuilding, a total rebuild on the interior line, absolutely.
And it's critical for the team to see what you have. And there's a lot of people that love Karan Amagaji on the interior of the offensive line.
That's why he's here.
And if the Bears have to, that's a critical piece that you're gonna have to see. Like I said, I'm expecting nothing from Nate Davis whatsoever. I just think he is who he is, and he might give you a good game. Maybe he gives you 2 decent games. He's not, but he is the anti-hits philosophy. That's who Nate Davis is, the anti-hits.
Yeah, absolutely. And if I could for a second, yeah. So, and I don't mean that to be derogatory.
Yeah. Welcome to the NFL.
But look at Dallas. There's CeeDee Lamb, and then not a whole lot.
No, but that's I mean,
you're the Chargers. You have nothing.
Yeah.
You're Baltimore. You have Zay Flowers, who's kind of good, but nothing. Outside of Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, what does Miami have? Outside of A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith at the wide receiver position, what does Philly have? So, yeah, once you get past the top 3, sure, it doesn't look great, but who has that top 3? Most teams don't. And I think Tyler Scott definitely needs to be there and needs to be more active because he's a different type of player. But yes,
fired.
Screw that guy. But I just kind of feel like, yeah, it is, but it doesn't matter. Green Bay won all of those games, those years when they had Devonta Adams and a bunch of okay to Midland guys. So to only have 3, I think we've got 4, but it doesn't matter. It's not a big deal.
Yeah, it's way, 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 way down on your list of things to worry about. But to me the key is, it seems like Ryan Bates is playing. It seems like the Bears obviously have an affinity for him. It seems like he's probably not 100% healthy, but you got to get him in there. And right now, to the point, because Amagagi has been limited the last 2 days, and they're obviously not just going to throw him. The Bears have been a team that ramps up guys very slowly. So I'm actually looking more towards actually even mid-season before they would probably go there with Amagagi, unless things.
Yeah, but he's going to be in guard before he's going to be in attack.
No. That's what I'm saying. But to me, the move to make for the team is if Bates is healthy, you run him in at center, and I'm putting Matt Pryor at right guard.
100%. Yeah, until he's ready to go. Yeah, and if Tevin doesn't do it and you can't do it, you could be talking after the bye week that it's Braxton, Karan, Bates, Pryor, right. And this whole, look, top tier centers are never traded. Ever.
Yeah, it just
you can find one in a lot of rounds.
Unless he's talking, he might be talking about the draft, trying to trade up and draft one, make a trade for one of the top centers in the draft. But
who?
Yeah, you just don't. Even then,
we all got mad about Stromberg, right, in Washington. Yeah. He got cut. Now, granted, it was injury, but he didn't look good. John Michael Schmitz. I know he started off pretty well, but you don't hear it about him dominating as much anymore.
Yeah, no, and journeymen only get you so far. You know what I mean? And you have to make the investment. And, when Olin first said it, I didn't really believe it so much because not everybody gets paid in the NFL, but he's like, hey, you get what you pay for at the position. And you look at the Bears at the center position since Olin Kreutz, and it's been nothing but chaos. And have they thrown legitimate big time resources at it?
Yeah.
They have not. They just have not. So
and you look at Lloyd Cushenberry, right? It was a big free agent signing for Tennessee.
Yeah, just never
did not look worth it at all. Tennessee had the same kind of line problems that we did. And again, it's week 1, but Latham was getting beaten pretty consistently in the pass game. And Cushenberry was not really playing well at all. And I think I would challenge some of you to watch these other games and be as and go watch some of them and just act like that's the team that you're rooting for. And watch this team and pretend that it's the Bears and grade the other players the same way that you grade the Bears players.
Oh, it's the truth. Scottish Bear is 100% correct. It's O-line play. Go look at some of the quarterback numbers. Go look at some of the passing numbers from week 1. It's down everywhere. Now I'm not giving a tip of the cap to Caleb Williams. We spent the first 20 minutes of this show talking about things that he needed to clean up. But it's just the truth. And where was the one? Danger T had it in there. Honestly, listen, we're talking about a lack of offensive linemen, legitimate players in the NFL on the offensive line. And he said ACL injuries aren't career enders anymore like they used to be. And Connor Williams is 25 or 26 years old, and even playing, he ended up in Seattle, correct?
Yep.
To me, it comes down to the Bears. Doctors said, no, it's not gonna last with this guy because there was things beyond his knees. And to me, Cars, it played out that way because he sat out there for so long. You're
And did not get a good deal.
a torn ACL is not preventing teams anymore from simply signing you. Does anybody remember when Ryan Pace was here and they went out and spent for Mitch? Does anybody remember the big signing out the gate in Allen Robinson? Guess what? He was coming off of a torn ACL from the year previous. So to me, it was a medical red flag. And I know that you're saying that you can take the gamble, but you're also paying your doctors for a reason.
It's true. It's true. And so I think again, we had a lot of holes. If we had signed a center instead of trading for Daryl Taylor, right? What does that look like? They've been looking, they've been trying. They're just good offensive linemen don't make it. Next year we could sign Zach Martin at 34 years old to play guard. You've got Ryan Kelly at center, who's going to be 32 at that point. The best young player is a guy named James Daniels, and he's been flashing great and
already a guy that Ryan Poles let walk.
Yeah, but he hasn't. He's been okay.
He hasn't lived up to his second round status.
Not at all. And so you're gonna figure out real quickly. I think you're right. Trey Smith is probably
the one that every Chicago Bears fan, and it's who knows. And the cap is fluid, and everybody knows that. But Kansas City, when you're paying all of these guys, and who knows, maybe Patrick Mahomes restructures and pushes a ton of money down the road because he doesn't want to lose Trey Smith. That's viable. We'll see. But at some point, when you're paying so many guys, that's why a L'Jarius Sneed is in Tennessee now. Can't pay everybody. But that's a dude. That's a dude right there, Cars. You're
the other guy is?
You're setting the market.
The other guy is that, depending on how this season, that I could see the Bears making an investment in Mekhi Becton, if he has the guard season because he's still 25, 26.
Played well in Philly week 1.
So that'd be another player. And so there are avenues, but you're right. Trey Smith, you go blow up the guard market.
Yep.
You go get him.
Yeah. And you look at it and you're like, what the fuck did he just do? That's a guard, but that's why you have a guy on a rookie contract at quarterback.
Yeah.
Those moves.
Yeah. So last but not least, let's just go through kind of some of the things to watch for in week 2. There were plays to be made on offense. Okay. Houston did not generate a ton of pressure on Richardson. They only registered 2 sacks and 2 QB hits. So there was some pressure, but they were not great. This is going to be a really big day for Waldron and Morgan to really step this up and make this look good. All I'm going to be focused on is personnel and how that offensive line is put together. That's it. I don't really think there's anything. I don't think anybody else is shocked by that. And if you are, I don't know why. But that's offensively, Shane, to me, that's the question. Yeah. And once you get past that, I their corners, Stingley's pretty good, but I would trust, and I like Jalen Petrie a little bit, but I think those are matches all over the place that we should win. When you look at defense, CJ Stroud was only pressured 21% of the pass blocks, but he was stacked 50% on those. So if you get pressure, you can convert. I think CJ's not the most escapable move guy. He's very good in the pocket. He's athletic, but it was one of the things we always said, right, like, he couldn't manufacture yardage at Ohio State. That really sticks to it. And so if you could generate pressure and get there, he was hit 10 times outside of those sacks. Joe Mixon had a hey, my 3.4 yards per carry in Cincinnati was overdone, averaging 5 on those 30 carries. But you can't let Slowick is really good if you let him control the clock. So you have to take the run game out. You can't allow those plays like we did to Tony Pollard last week.
No.
Nico Collins is their number one.
Yeah.
Not Diggs,
100%.
it's not Dell. But he feasts in the middle of the field. So you really need to watch with Edwards and Edmonds how they take away that part of the middle of the field. He will take some stuff deep, but most of his stuff is like that intermediate 15 yards, 20 yards, middle of the field thing. And so our linebackers and a little bit of our safeties, they need to be there to make the plays.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And I mean, Dell can be a game wrecker with his speed, and that's going to be something that we definitely need to keep our eyes on. But Cars, I know this was floating around Chicago radio today, and I'm not going to go down the rabbit hole with Velus, but is Velus active Sunday night?
No.
You say no. Yep. I'm there with you. He would not be for me. But man, I just
you can't trust him on punts and kicks. I'm sorry.
You
and
can't.
Then what's a spot? You can't take carries away from Khalil Herbert because he doesn't pass block well for a guy who's never done it from that position. It doesn't make any sense.
Well, and then, if you're worried about special teams and then you're talking about Roshan, is Roshan going to be ready to go? And he's a guy that can give you some special teams play on top of it. And then, as much I've been pretty hard on Roshan, I don't see a lot of upside.
He's a plotter
in running back for him, but he's a guy on those 3rd and 1s where the Bears have struggled. If they're going to be running the football, I think he's the guy that you can get it done with when you need some of those power yards.
Some of those Seattle guys, right, that were bowling balls back there, right? And the one thing we did miss, that's a very good call out, Shane, because I think he's a different skill set from Velus, from Herbert, and from Swift. And so that change of pace, definitely, he's the guy that should be running up the gut more often, right? He's
100%.
the interior guy. He can block well. He should be getting more of those snaps than Travis Homer, and if he's healthy for this game.
But that's the thing that they need to do, Cars, and this is what Waldron needs to do, and this is what the Bears have always struggled with. There has to be some personnel where Roshan and DeAndre Swift are in the same backfield. You know what I mean? And then if you have to flank DeAndre out, that's just another option to give you a guy like that out there. But this is where the Bears have seemingly struggled forever. I mean, Cars, when we first met way back in the Bear Report days, how often did they talk? Oh, we're going to use the ultra back, Raymond Harris and Rashawn in the same backfield. They said it forever,
and they never did.
It just never materialized, and we've seen it. Chester Taylor, and who was it? That would have been with what, Forte? Then they were talking about we're going to use them both at the same time, and give yourself options. Don't, and I'm not calling Roshan one of our best play. Yeah, be creative.
That's what separates. Look at how Shanahan has Juszczyk running wheel routes for big plays, right? Like, look at what McDaniel has done in Miami with the run game. Look at with no name guys, right? Like Mostert, all these other guys.
But that's the thing right there, Cars, is beyond. And who was it? I think it was Muck. Where did he have it? I'm with him. I and we just said it live on air. I don't see a lot of upside other than his short yardage and gutting out some tough yards. But
that's a 4th round pick too. That's what you want out of a 4th round pick.
Yeah, exactly. But you're saying it, man. There's guys out there. That's the one position. I feel like you can always find a guy. If Brisker went out there and got hurt, the Bears are probably going to go out and sign a guy like Adrian Colbert. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
And bring him in. And I feel like you can always find a running back.
Oh, easily. Yes.
That can come in and contribute early. And that's beyond Swift. Bears don't really have much explosiveness at the running back.
Well, they have. I think they have explosiveness, but they don't have a physical yardage person. They don't have,
and that has to be Roschon,
and it has to. And you know what? Again, for a 4th round pick, that's fine. You know, that's what you want. Every now and then, you're going to find a Terrell Davis in the 6th round. Sure, but you know what? If all Roschon does for a year is give you like 50 carries and 180 yards, you know what? That's great as a 4th round pick. A lot of these guys don't even make it that far, and he is different. And so when you put him in those rounds and you let him run physically and you let him wear people down, that's going to make Swift more effective. That's going to make Herbert more effective. This is why you see all these teams go away from kind of this bell cow where you give it to them 300 times a year. No, if you have 3 guys and you had 2 like 200 carries and the 3rd guy at 50, that's the balance. That's how you do it.
Yeah, and he is bare truth. He's not like Cars just said, he's not a bell cow, but what you can do with him is his change of pace isn't just in the backfield. He's a guy that you can use. You can put him out wide, and he can make plays. And that's what you have to do. He's not DeAndre Swift wasn't signed here to rush the ball 25 times every week.
But if Devin Singletary can have a great career as a guy who isn't physical, who isn't the strongest guy, but is rushed for over 4,000 yards in his career. If that's what Swift is, it's fine. There's not Derrick Henry's coming out every year. You miss more often on 1st round running backs, it feels like, than you do on any other. How good does Bijan look in Atlanta?
Right.
Like it's a thing. So you're not going to find this perfect combo back. DK Metcalf is a wonderful receiver. He still has a very limited route running tree.
Big time.
But he can still be super effective. Deebo Samuel can barely run all the routes that he has. He's not a good route runner. He's been a 1,000-yard receiver because you've had an offensive coordinator that's figured out ways to use him and take advantage of it. That's all you're looking for. If you have one positive trait, a good offensive coordinator will exploit the hell out of it and milk that for all it's worth. That's all you're trying to do. And for Swift, it's explosive run plays and screen plays and wheel routes and these other things. He should be a 15 to 18 touches a game guy. And that's it.
I hear you. And I know
that's it. That's all I got.
We're wrapped up there, but we gave our bold predictions and score of the game and bold predictions. So I know everybody wants to get yours. I'll recap mine. I was 24-16 Houston with the win. And my bold prediction was that we're going to see a different Caleb Williams, one that's, I don't think he's going to miss the wide open pass this time. He's going to make those plays, but we'll see. Let me just give a list here real quick. And this is kind of how I started off.
Just so everybody, Tua is already thrown 2 interceptions today. And they're down 17-7.
Is it below 80 degrees at kickoff?
It might have been, but
17-3 as a starter with 80 and above, and 16-17 as a starter with below 80 degrees at kickoff.
Crazy.
Interesting.
That's crazy.
But Cars, this is honestly where, when you're talking about trying to direct the Titanic away from the iceberg, so this is where Matt Eberflus and this defense is in Matt Eberflus's tenure. These are the names right now, and this is up to date. Trey Lance, Davis Mills, Bailey Zappi / Mac Jones, Sam Howell, Brian Hoyer / Aiden O'Connell, Bryce Young, Josh Dobbs, Jared Goff, Kyler Murray, Taylor Heineke / Desmond Ritter, and Will Levis.
Mhm.
Those are the quarterbacks that the Chicago Bears have beaten under Matt Eberflus.
Yep.
Now you have the dude there that has been an all-pro, that has set records as a rookie. You're on national TV. You're on the road. Your offense struggled. Your defense is ascending. You know what? You want to change things in Chicago? Go out there as a fucking defense and punch this motherfucker in the face and make a fucking statement nationally. That's going to make your offense better right there if the defense can do that. Because as of right now, Jared Goff is the best quarterback by a country mile.
Well,
that
he's the
you've
second
beaten.
highest paid quarterback next year. So I'm sorry.
Yeah. But you get my point.
Yeah.
It's Jared Goff, and then where do you go? Kyler?
Yeah.
After that? And I mean, come on. So
No, absolutely.
It's essentially a Jared Goff, Kyler, and a bunch of journeymen beyond that. Go make plays on defense against a big-time professional quarterback on the road on national TV, and then we'll talk afterwards. But until then, I cannot give this team, this organization, anybody the benefit of the doubt until you show me, because none of them deserve it.
No, I completely agree, and that's why I'm shocked by myself that I'm going to say I actually think the Bears win on a walk-off field goal, 27-24.
You fucker, you just want BA. You don't want me to sleep Sunday night, right? That's
I
what
never
you're
want
saying?
you to sleep. Yeah, no, you're my mortal enemy. My bold prediction there is I expect that to be 3 touchdowns in the air from Caleb Williams this week. So
cocaine for everybody on BHL. If we have a walk-off and Caleb blows up, oh my goodness.
The difference is I really like D'Amico. I think he's a heck of a coach.
Yep.
I just don't think they've got the talent defensively to be that. And I mean, they did look, if you get bored, go watch that Texans Colts game. The Colts do not have a great defense. It took them a while to step up. I don't think the Colts have a great offensive line. The Texans really couldn't take advantage of it. And I think some of the problem, I love watching Anthony Richardson when he's not my quarterback. You know what I mean? He's one of those guys, which is like,
throw was fucking alien like cars.
Oh, but then you watch him the other plays and you're just like, oh Jesus. Yeah, it's
I texted JJ. Everybody remembers old friend JJ Stankovitz, and I'm like, dude, what do you say? And he's like, yeah, it's hard to put into words. He's like, you watch it live and you're like, did that just happen? It's unbelievable. Unbelievable.
And so the biggest reason to me is that I'm optimistic is I really like Washington's impact on the defensive play calls. You're absolutely right to sit down and call Flus out for who he's beaten. But you know what? It's looked much better since he's had a Montez Sweat in the backfield. And so some of those things make a big difference.
And Darrell Taylor can, hey, keep it up, kid.
And to your like, I clocked Gervon Dexter getting double teamed in about 60% of his snaps last week. 60%. There were plays where he was manhandling both guys trying to block him.
Did you see on Tyreek Stevenson's
when he kind of went like this at somebody and the guy's like, I'm good. Yeah.
He's like, yep, we're done.
Yep. I'm coming.
Love it. Love it.
And those are the things. Those are the matchups that I really like. Listen, I give all the credit to the Texans last year, but they were playing a 4th place schedule. You want to look at who Houston beat last year. It is not this whole, oh my God, look what they did. Because who did they beat? Let's look through. They beat the Jaguars, the Steelers, the Saints. They lost to Carolina. They beat the Bucks, the Bengals, the Arizona Cardinals, the Denver Broncos, the Tennessee Titans twice, the Colts a second time.
Yeah. So their quarterback list is not impressive.
Is not impressive at all. And that second win against the Colts, Richardson was already gone. So we can use that all we want, but every year you see fourth to first because that fourth place schedule is so much easier.
Sure.
So much there's a reason that usually whoever wins the NFC North one year does not win it the next year because that fourth place schedule is a cakewalk.
Yeah, and Adrian, I will say this. I don't want to say too much, but I think you will. Cars, you agree?
You 100% will. 100% will.
Yeah. So, all right. Mo's calling you an idiot, I think, Cars. Did you hear what happened to our poor guy Mo last night?
Well, but I mean, who is the quarterback for the Browns at that point? The point wasn't that they blew them up.
Yeah, we're talking quarterback.
The point is that they blew them. Part of the reason they blew them up is because their quarterback play was terrible that day. The defense gave up 418 yards on that. It was.
Poor Mo came in talking smack to Cherie last night, and she booted him, blocked him from TTNL live on air last night.
Oh boy!
But our guy Mo Cars he's got a baby Mo on the way. Mo, put in the chat. Is it your first? Is it your first one? I don't remember if you answered that last night or not. So let us know before we get out of here. You have 10 seconds, Mo. Let's see what he does. Yeah, exactly. Carrie says you might get blocked again, Mo. What is he doing? What is he doing, Cars? What does he do back in the back of that truck?
And so, Mo, you were right in the playoffs. They did, but they lost in the regular season and weren't the same team. So yeah, playoffs is always different. I'm not taking away, but I'm just talking about in the regular season. And again, who's the quarterback? Shane's statement was, these are the quarterbacks that you've beaten. Joe Flacco is now a reserve again somewhere else. You know, if you
Indy.
Yeah. So if you're looking at it and you're like, beat Trevor Lawrence, Kenny Pickett, Derek Carr, Baker Mayfield, Burrow was not playing in the Bengals game, Kyler Murray, Russell Wilson, Will Levis or Malik, like these aren't great names either.
24/7 Buffalo now.
Jesus.
Speaking of, they're the Miami head coach may be doing cocaine after this one. I
mean, just a 49-yard touchdown run.
Did you look at your text from the Bonta text thread?
He is, listen, his movement from like quirky, awkward guy to Miami's #1 cocaine kingpin look is night and day. And I love the guy. I don't mean that, but he's one of my favorites because he's just so all over the place. I love the dude, but man,
he's South Beach Cars.
Oh, he's everything a nerd wants to be, right?
Yeah, right.
Right, like just talking weird shit, coming up with weird statistics, not making a whole lot of sense, but having a shitload of money, and just like try it. It's like Waterboy at the end where the coach is like drawing up these crazy weird plays.
Yeah.
And he's like, I think this will work. I got Tariq and Jalen Waddle. What if I just have two of them run around like they're lost on the field and then sprint down the field for 80 yards?
Yeah, no, I hear you, but
that's it though.
Well, I say we get out of here. We are just about 90 minutes in. We're a little bit short, but there's nothing wrong with that. And yeah, where was I? Yeah, Bare Truth. I've certainly looked at them, but we will have more on that a little bit later in the off season. But yeah, it's going to be a good year for offensive linemen. We'll just say that. But Cars, we're out of. Did you give a final score?
Yeah,
What was it?
27-24 Bears on a walk-off Santos field goal.
Yeah, speaking of my guy Cairo, I do encourage anybody to listen to the 85 with Cole Kmet where he has Cairo Santos on. He really takes you out of. Did you get a chance to listen to that?
I haven't yet. No.
He takes you behind the scenes, and I like things that I had no idea about, that they're delivered 3 brand new footballs about an hour before kickoff.
And the process he goes to break them in and get them ready.
He doesn't. The Bears, each team has a team of people, and he said they are working feverishly for 45 straight minutes going through this entire process. And
that's crazy.
Yeah, but it's super interesting, and talking about, Torrey Taylor and what he's learning and how he holds the football, and he may want the laces one way sometimes, and how Patrick Scales snaps the ball. He actually has the laces in the palm of
Lions? Oh yeah, Scales then, but
yeah, but he was talking about Scales, but how it Scales when he snaps the ball has the laces in the palm of his hand every time, because of it's specific to the way that Cairo likes to kick the football. And it's those little details that 99% of fans, and myself included, have no idea about, but just how, a field goal kicker misses a 50-yard field goal. There's a lot in the process that gets to that miss.
Yes. Oh, so minuscule. Fractions off, and it's over.
Yeah. So, all right, man. We'll wrap it up there. Phil has a comment.
I love balls.
Yep, that sounds about right.
Yep. Sunday Night Football's up next. Go Bears. Go Caleb Williams. Go defense. Waldron. Let's go. Wake the fuck up. Let's get out of here. We love you guys. TTNL. We're out.